Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Olivia, and I'm so glad to welcome all of you here to our second gathering of Living One's third series of 2025, A Re-Enchanted World. This is the culmination of this year's Living One theme, Seeing the Unseen, Restoration through Re-Enchantment. For those of you who don't already know, Living One is the Carrillo Center for Nonviolence's webinar series, now in its 6th year. The Carrillo Center for Nonviolence is a nonprofit dedicated to generating deep commitment and connection with the world and within ourselves, dissolving divides between the human, plant, and animal, mind and body, science and spirit, and self and nature. Through teachings, practice, and community, Carrillo's catalyzes a shift in how we live, relate, and belong, because healing begins when we remember that we were never apart. Our third and final Living One series of 2025, A Re-Enchanted World, continues to explore the unseen, those parts of nature and ourselves obliterated and reduced by commodification. The mercantile, capitalist, realist Cartesian paradigm has supported scientific, technological, and industrial advances, but stripped our psyches and imaginations, even our very perceptions and understanding of the richly entangled, convivially connected nature of life on our living planet. Living One invites creative and committed people from around the world to discuss how to change our lives to serve Earth and our plant and animal kin. Become a part of Earth revitalization by listening and learning with these amazing speakers. Our guests today are Harry Wels and Saskia Stehouwer. Harry Wels calls himself a multi-species organizational ethnographer and is associate professor at Re University Amsterdam and the African Studies Center Leiden at Leiden University, and extraordinary professor at the University of the Western Cape, South Africa, at the Department of Women's and Gender Studies. He has this idea that there is no time to waste to keep on studying and reflecting on our multi-species entanglements and share and discuss his thoughts about this with students and colleagues. Many of his reflections are about learning what to unlearn in terms of assumptions, biases, prejudices, convictions, reflexes, impulses, beliefs, habits, lifestyles, manhood, relations, morality, ideas about right and wrong, and whatnot. Saskia studied Dutch and English literature at the University of Amsterdam. Saskia's first volume of poetry, entitled Waiting Rooms, was published by Marmor Publishers in October 2014 and received the prestigious C. Booding Prize for Poetry in 2015. Her second book, Free Range, was published in October 2016. In 2019, Saskia published the compostable poetry book Connective Tissue, which was handwritten on homemade paper from kitchen scraps and plants. This book can be thrown on the compost heap after reading so that it can return to the cycle of nature. A translation of the book is underway. Saskia is one of the founders and core members of the Climate Poets, a collective of over 250 Dutch and Flemish poets who use their words to raise awareness around climate issues. Her most recent book of poetry is Living on the Edge of the Miracle. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that we are all currently on various Indigenous lands. I am currently on the ancestral homelands of the Council of the Three Fires, which includes the Ojibwa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi. This land exists also as a place of trade with other Indigenous communities, including the Ho-Chunk, Miami, Menominee, Sauk, and Meskwaki. The Carrillo Center for Nonviolence is located on the homelands of the grizzly bear, Takelma, Daku Betete, coyote, coho salmon, golden eagle, and gray wolf. Finally, we ask that all of us participate with full respect and attention to each other in the spirit of peace and wisdom that Living One seeks to foster. So without further ado, we welcome Izzy, Harry, and Saskia.
Hello, delighted to be here with you all. And just a little reminder, you should all have got an email saying, bring a slice of lemon, a pen and a piece of paper. So I'm just proving that I have brought my slice of lemon. So if anyone hasn't got their slice of lemon, you can listen into the audio while you sneak off and get it. And in the meantime, I'm going to put it in there. Harry and Saskia, it's wonderful to see you here. Thank you so much for joining us. And I thought we'd start the sort of introduction of you introducing yourselves and how you came to collaborate together. I mean, what this Wondersearch project that you're involved in is and how it actually came about. So we have to start with pearls before swine. No, I didn't say that.
So we'll start with Harry then.
We'll start with you, Saskia.
Okay. Yeah, well, I have to sort of digest this compliment first, I think. Thank you, Izzy. Thank you, Olivia. And thank you, Gay. Thank you, everyone from the Carolus Center for having us, first of all. We're really happy that we're able to talk to a like-minded crowd about a subject that in the regular world may not always be received. Well, let's say they will raise eyebrows, but maybe that's the best reaction you'll get. So we're very happy to be here. And your question, Izzy, about our cooperation, we could delve into that for a very long time, but I'll just say that I, as a newly graduated student, ended up at VU University as a secretary. And Harry was working at the same department and basically plucked me out of the secretary's position and into the newly found South African Center of VU University. So we worked there, we worked together there for roughly 10 years, I think. Then went our separate ways, but somehow both radicalized into the same direction, oddly enough, and then sort of refound each other around topics such as multi-species communication, vegetarianism, love of nature, talking to trees, what have you, and decided to, well, write the article we always talked about writing, and did so last year.
That's fantastic. And Harry, from your perspective, it's been something of a change from a kind of, from your original job as a kind of structural anthropologist. You're looking at organizations, and now you're looking at, well, multi-species organizations. How did you make that change?
Well, first of all, I echo, of course, all that Saskia has said about the privilege and honor to be with this audience, which is great. And yes, we may say a few things, but please respond, interrupt, disagree, agree, whatever. So thank you very much for the invitation, Izzy, Gay, Olivia. Really appreciate it. Yes, I think that South Africa has a lot to do with a lot of how I think, how I reflect, how I radicalized, in the words of Saskia, and maybe that also applies a bit to Saskia herself. So my regional geographical orientation has always been Southern Africa since the second half of the 80s of the previous century. Sorry to say, it's a long time ago. And my particular topic has been nature conservation, but from a perspective from the social sciences, which funny enough, or not funny enough even, resulted in writing about nature conservation if wildlife kind of conservation was people management in a way. And I mean, the irony of it all is that I got my accolades in academia because of it. But at the same time, I knew that at some stage this was preposterous, actually, what I tried to argue. So I did my PhD first, got all that out of the way, and then in 2015, when I felt confident enough after reading, I don't know how many books, articles, and what have you, on multi-species stuff and anthropocentrism and speciesism and what not, I wrote an article for a particular journal on ethnography, organizational ethnography, arguing that if you come across a copy of my PhD anywhere, please don't read it because it's anthropocentric like nothing else, and misjudged, misguided in many ways. And that felt as a relief almost to write it and get it off my chest, but also to gain the confidence to make the argument and get past the reviews in a journal for organizational ethnography. And so yes, that felt as a kind of okay, that it is possible. Times are changing, paradigms are moving, are developing, or are whatever word you give to it, if it's progress or we return to more indigenous kind of perspectives on slashing the boundaries between human and the non-human, and life and non-life, and what have you. And then indeed, Saskia and I found each other again. We never really lost
No,
touch, but in a way found each other again, and recognized that we ended up more or less in the same kind of intellectual atmosphere, that triggered a lot of our cooperation at first as well, when we were working for the South Africa office. So and of course, I mean, I can't do much. I can do a bit of writing and a bit of reading and all that, but Saskia has got an artistic way of representing a lot that I would love to be able to do, but I can't. But joining forces has been such a pleasure. And indeed, as you will see from that little that little article that we wrote, it is very serious, and it's really meant to make a point. And at the same time, if you read the package leaflet, you will see that we had a good laugh as well about what a paradigm shift in academia means, and how people can respond, and how they can become angry about you, and maybe we even trigger that anger by making fun of those that feel angered because of it. But that's all for a conversation later on. But by way of introduction.
Thank you so much, and we will get onto that article in a very short moment. But I just wanted to say, I mean, it seems to me that both of you have shown, I think, admirable courage and commitment for your beliefs, and in entirely different ways. Harry, you through the academy in shifting the way that you're operating within the academy, and Saskia by saying, you know, the academy is just, you know, it's kind of blinkered, and I need to forge my own path. So there are two distinct and yet entirely committed and courageous responses to changing the paradigm, it seems, with you two. I don't know, Saskia, if you wanted to respond to that. I imagine you might feel I'm putting you on the spot.
I think for me, it's a little bit too much of an honor, because I left academia basically because I tried to write a PhD about South African poetry, then inundated myself with literature to an extent that I got into a massive burnout where I couldn't read anymore, and then had to leave anyway, and decided that I wanted to write instead of read. So I'm not sure if that was courage or sheer desperation, but that led me to becoming a poet. And I stayed out of academia, but always sort of had one small finger around the door. And Harry was being very complimentary just now, but I couldn't do any of this without Harry, because he's the one who gets all this literature, reads it, distills it, and makes something coherent and comprehensive of it, which I could never do. So
you're a symbiotic relationship.
That's what we are. Kind of a fungi.
Yeah.
Well, that probably should lead us into metabolizing the maze. And so I will share the screen, hopefully, if I can get beyond all my stickies to where it is.
Oh, there we go.
Yay, success. So I don't know where to sort of start on this. I mean, one thing, the title, Wondersearch, and this series obviously is a Re-Enchanted World. And I wanted just to get a sense from both of you of what enchantment means to you and why it matters, and kind of, if you could draw in a little bit, how the way that you approach this paper is actually inspired by that sense of enchantment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I start answering that? Is that okay, Harry?
Please. Yeah, no, of course.
Okay. So to me, enchantment is this. This is a rose hip that I just sliced. Look at this thing.
Right.
I mean, what more do we need, right? Just, yeah. So to me, I think enchantment is more of a state than anything else. I find that if I for example, want to write a poem, what I need to do is get into a state where I feel a connection to the living world around me. If I don't, if I just well, go through the motions of work and sitting in front of screens, I feel this kind of separation. And in that state, I am very unlikely to appreciate the wonders of the world. Whereas when I get to a state of connection, which some people do naturally, I might need a walk or a meditation or something to get there. But if I get there, I feel sort of an automatic bond between me and all the living things around me. And I think that's what is required to be able to feel enchantment. Because when you're in that state, you're almost like willing to be enchanted by everything, like this rose hip. And it doesn't take much. I mean, enchantment can be found in anything. And to me, it's one of the most important feelings that there are. Not because I want to sort of sketch this rosy glassed idea that the world is beautiful and everything is fine, but because I feel that when people get to this state of enchantment, when they actually feel this connection to the other living beings around them, that they will automatically start wanting to take care of the world more. So what I try to do with my work, and why we've called it Wondersearch, I think, but Harry, you can correct me if you think differently, is because the searching for wonders is actually what can, I think, support people to start changing their life, because they want to take care of this precious world and they see the miracles and they actually appreciate them. So to me, it's quite a serious matter, but at the same time, it's the most lighthearted and wonderful feeling that there is. So it's both.
That is such a beautiful response, Saskia, and I think we should clip the whole of that and use it to promote the series. Harry.
No, please do that. I mean, it resonates with so much, and that's probably one of the reasons why we can cooperate so easily. First of all, because we never correct each other, we complement each other truly. So I am in no position to correct anything. But so what is important in my thinking about it is that this enchantment is a state of being, a state of being that academia is not in. And it is a state of being that resonates strongly with what I have read, what I've experienced in Southern Africa, and from what they then call indigenous studies. And so, yes, there is, like Saskia said, a kind of lightness. I mean, I felt a relief after I got beyond, or got it off my chest, to write that whole thing about the anthropocentrism of social sciences. And it opened my eyes, and it gave a complete kind of different state of being. You call it courage, Izzy, but it's not courage at all, because it is also a state of being that has nothing to do with courageous, but I can't see it differently anymore. And so if you now tell me that organizations or organizational ethnography is about humans only, I can only laugh, because you know that it's such a blinkered perspective on organizations and what is happening in organizations. I mean, today at our department, we get a message from our head of department about the fact that mice are entering our territory. And that for once we must clean up, not to give them a chance, and blah, blah, blah. Well, we have seen that before, and the end of the story is usually that we don't clean up our mess and they kill the mice. So how on earth can you ever think of organizational processes at the very mundane, down-to-earth shop floor level and say, no, but it's about humans, it's about... No, it's about a multi-species environment, and our university has got a medical faculty and a university hospital. What do you think what mice do over there in their endless row of cages? I mean, how can you say that it's only about humans? I mean, so not to get fired up too much, but it tells you something about what I think about enchantment, which is related to a cosmology that is much more inclusive. And of course, in the social sciences, the concept of inclusiveness has been around for a long time, but only with relevance considered to human beings and not to anything beyond that. And if I speak multi-species these days, and you are, I mean, like Saskia and I are kind of influenced but by our experience in Southern Africa, then the ancestors almost become a natural part of that environment as well. And all of a sudden, things as big and difficult to grasp, like cosmology, and enter the conversation. And I find it liberating, and indeed with a lightheartedness that also leads us to make fun of ourselves, but also of academia. And so therefore, if Saskia is in academia or outside of academia, actually she's better off outside academia for many reasons.
It's such a rich elaboration, and I was thinking, I was going to sort of question you a bit more on the title, but I want to go straight into looking through your article, because if anyone is familiar with the idea of an academic paper, I should have had I have got a comparison. It's usually a text which has, footnotes and highlights from me, because I particularly liked this text. It's by next week's speaker, Patrick Curry. And but that's what it looks like. It's got a lot of text, and and there's quotations, there's references to Phaedo, to Plato, to Descartes, and so on. And then, if I can just get this taskbar out of the way, I have to maneuver that down. There we go. If we look at this, what we see is something, I mean, for a start, it's beautifully produced, and then it has images. There is text. Yep, there's text, and there are there are indeed some citations in there. But we get beyond the text and, oh, wait a second, that's different. Oh, look, this is process. There is process in this. It's not just about, I am presenting this as a finished result. It's always in this state of becoming. And, just so many different ways of looking at an idea, and the objects that Saskia has made, and beautiful use of images. It's such a creative piece, and poetry. So, I mean, it's so rich. And if any of those of you who've signed up to do the course haven't read this, you really missed a trick. And for anyone else who's interested, I'm sure that Saskia can put maybe copy a link into the chat, so any of you who are here can can take a look through this, because it's just something that is revolutionary and very different. So let's how do I guide us through the maze of this metabolizing the maze paper? Well, maybe Saskia, about the multimedia element of it. Why was it so important to you to do more than just write a text? And Harry, I think you'll want to respond to this as well.
Yeah. Now you go first, Saskia.
I think that one of the great benefits of looking not just through text, but through all sorts of means, is that it becomes somehow more embodied. Because I think most of the academic papers, they do a really good job of thoroughly examining the thing and getting all their references and making this whole solid thing of it. And that's wonderful in its own way. And we haven't sort of eschewed from academic research. We embraced that too as one of the means to get to know something. But there are so many other ways to get to know something. And I think by including images and poetry and journeys and dreams and all sorts of things, you get a way more, well, three-dimensional, maybe four-dimensional, I don't know, but multi-dimensional view of the thing you're looking at. And also it invites the reader to not just sort of sit there as a consumer passively taking in the text, but also to engage and to use their own senses and to start thinking and maybe creating their own idea of this thing that we are talking about. I think that for me is the most, I just like looking at things in different ways, and it enriches the experience, I think. But maybe
Totally.
you can add something, Harry, then I'll send the link out to people.
Yeah. No, as you can see, the handwriting is Saskia's, because if I would have done it, to be able to read it, for one, but also the way and the ability and the talent to visualize and to think in this creative ways is something that I incredibly admire in Saskia, and that I help a bit with reading through books and what have you, is helpful, because together it is a stronger message than if it would be on its own.
Yeah,
That holds
exactly.
for me, and it holds for Saskia, and
Yeah.
so it is incredibly helpful. I think what shines through, hopefully, or at least we hope it was a bit intended, that the life's entanglement becomes clear. And in that context of entanglement, the word ruderal in our title is an important one to maybe say a few words about, because we are non-English speakers, and that doesn't help. And so we were looking for something, for a word that could capture the kind of ruined state of our planet, where plants can grow in a ruined landscape. And I think that Anat Singh's work on the mushroom at the end of the world, and what she wrote after that book, inspired us tremendously in that, both for its empirical part, but also for its more metaphorical part, of how we basically plunder the planet, and still know that life will find its way through the tar, in between the tiles, and so this ruderal, which is suggesting that, seems an appropriate way to say, okay, if you go for an organizational ethnographic approach, it should be ruderal. There's hope in it, but there's also recognition and acknowledgement of the ruined state of the planet we are living in, and so yes, to try to bring that kind of message, not as a truth, but as something that, I mean, if I almost challenge anyone in the audience to say, well, if you can find any truth in this one, a single one, that would be quite remarkable, because it invites you much more to have a perspective, or create a perspective, or come up with your own interpretation, make up something of the artifacts, of the title, of the poetry, of the fun we make at the very end, than that we say, hey, this is 1 + 1 is 2, and you better believe it. No, it's not. It is an invitation to share a few thoughts that we hope might be helpful for this particular moment in time.
Yeah, I like that. So and as well as Saskia talking about the idea of embodiment through the multimedia element, what you're saying is that through the way that you've presented it, it also demands an engagement rather than, as you said, that as you mentioned, Saskia, that passive response. And I think also that that asking, or inspiring that state of being that is wonder in the other, such that it does sort of open their eyes to look at the paper and then the world in a different way from the way that they might have been being before they came to it. Is that English? I'm not sure. You're not native speakers,
so
but
we
you're
don't
better.
mind.
But you're better at it. There are sort of a couple of things that I specifically wanted to mention, about this paper, just because they sort of are so beautiful. But I appreciate that we want to move on from it. So I'll ask you to sort of, be fairly sort of brief. But this one, I think, was it Harry or Saskia? Which of you wanted to sort of bring this up?
Harry thought of the model, so I think he should talk about it.
Yeah, I love this.
Yeah, so I mean, so we have the opening course of the Master's Cultural Organization and Management. We surprise students by telling them that yes, it's cultural organization and management, but it's a multi-species take and it is a multi-sensory take on things. And we have labeled that for the sake of students and their understanding as a deep forest model. So a lot of things hide from your eyes. They are underground, but they are of very much significance of what you make of it and how they turn out above the surface. So it's easy to see the tree, it's easy to see the rabbit, it's easy to see the flora and fauna in general, but what's underground you can't see. And actually that's also a metaphor, but also more literally what happens in organizations. And for that reason, we literally take them to the Amsterdam forest, to a goat farm, because yes, there is a goat farm and all of a sudden it's not all about humans because there's a hell of a lot of goats, but it's also in the Amsterdam forest, and the Amsterdam forest in itself is the context of that multi-species organization, adding another layer to that multi-species organization. So how we have played with that idea for this particular picture is that we have said, well, the root system, the entanglement of the root system, we have picked up by literally writing, telling quotes from the bibliography. And that inspired us in the end to come up with something that you can witness above the surface, and you can read in this article. So it is a bit of a metaphor, it's a bit of literal, it's a bit of making visual what's happening in minds and intellects and have you. And
and also maybe the fertility of the underground.
Exactly.
Yes.
Thanks. I was thinking of that word indeed. Yeah.
And that kind of composting of ideas, to use an image that Donna Haraway likes, that that way that things are composted together rather than all sort of separate.
Yeah, I like that, because it becomes a maze of itself. Yeah.
And there's something, and then Saskia, I leave it to you. There's something, I mean, because I'm very much trained to look at texts. So Saskia coming up with the idea to say, why not use that deep forest model, which is based on a hell of a lot of texts, as a kind of, visualization of where we got our inspiration from, triggered me again to look at it differently in a way. Instead of, I need to come with some coherence. Well, please come up with any coherence that you may find in this entangled bowl of spaghetti. You know what I try to say. So again, it does not compartmentalize, but it brings together and entangles so that no one is right in the end.
Yeah. And I think what I like about the whole thing is that it is both entangled, but it is also, it shows by the colors, it shows that they are still different texts saying their own things, but then together they form a new thing, sort of a new figure that is sort of the roots of the way we have been thinking about this. Also, we were so inspired that this is actually the second version because we had too many quotes and I had to do it again.
No, it's wonderful.
Yeah, and for the audience, I mean, if you really look at the bibliography at the end, if you can more easily read it than the handwritten ones, but you find all these references in that root system.
Yeah, and you're also invited to add to it because we would actually like to have some sort of interactive root system, but our technical knowledge is still lacking. But if we can, we would like to set that up so that people can actually add their own root to it.
Oh, that would be great,
That would be
wouldn't it?
nice, right?
Yeah, it would
Yeah.
be really nice. And this one as well, you're using an iconic image from the explorer, philosopher Alexander von Humboldt, of, I can't remember the name of the volcano.
Yeah.
Um, and this again is a sort of like very suggestive way about roots. What was the thinking behind this one, Saskia?
Well, I think we were very much enchanted by von Humboldt's work because he so naturally combined science and arts. For him, it was this, well, it wasn't the same knowledge, but it had the same value. So he would look at Goethe's poems as being as informative as the best scientific works of his time. And we really liked that. So then I thought there must be more people that have done this. And of course there are. But I looked through the history and sort of listed here the most compelling ones that I could find from Lao Tzu, which is like very, very long time ago, to more recent ones that I put at the top. If I can just take one as an example that nobody knows him, I think. Maybe you do because you're in America. His name is Christian Buck. He's the like fourth from the top. And he's a Canadian poet. But what he did, he wrote a poem, then fed it into a string of DNA somehow and got it into a cell. And in that cell, the poem was read by the cell, led to a reaction, led to the creation of a protein that was broken down, and that formed a new poem. I'm not really sure how he did it, but this is one of the sort of really imaginative ways of combining arts and science, which adds to the both of them. And all the people in this drawing, I think, added to both the sciences and the arts in their own unique ways. So we wanted to just honor them by that.
No, it's wonderful, and it's so striking. I wanted to ask Saskia to read a poem and Harry to talk about the bit at the end, and then we'll move away from your paper. I don't know which of you would like to, whether Harry, you wanted to talk about the end first.
Saskia, what do you think is the best way to proceed?
Maybe if the end is the end, I could do the poem
Okay,
first.
you do the poem.
Which one do you want? You want the one in the article or the maple one?
Whichever you feel moved to.
Yeah, I think the second one in the article.
Am I going the wrong way?
Yeah, you're going the wrong way. I think it's number like 11 or something, 10 maybe. Let's see.
Oh,
No,
not that one.
No, that's the first one. Yeah, there we go. Oh, you just met. You're past.
We missed it. I just missed
Yep,
it.
here
Okay,
we
here we
are.
are.
Okay, if you can move the page with me, then I can read it from the screen. Okay.
Yes, I will try.
Okay, so it's called Journey. And I wrote it in Dutch, so yeah. But I want to acknowledge that in the audience today are my two great translators, Joel Katz and Robert Perry, who, yeah, who
Oh,
translated my second volume. And they have also made, together with me, we've made the translation for this one together as well. So I just wanted to say hi and happy to see you here.
thank you.
Okay, so it's called Journey. Found our way through the woods to draw a map. Followed the trails between trunks that were watching us closely. Could see an animal's day in its footprint. Our feet and the ground in conversation. The animals in the sky guarding us, giving signs, providing cover. No one was going in the same direction as we were. There was a willingness to be cold, to walk on an empty stomach. We were thinking in the dark, sleeping with a child on guard. The eyes in the undergrowth, the rustling of feet, the smell of busy bush. Fibers up straight, senses pointed, leaning on the knowledge that we were this, that we belonged to this, mattered in this, would stay in this.
It brings goosebumps to me to hear you read that. That
Thank
was
you.
beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Thank
Thank
you. And you really get the sense of the journey that you two are on through this. Very, very
Yeah,
powerfully. And and even more so with you reading it, I feel, but just lovely, really, really
thank
wonderful.
you. Thanks.
And Harry, the end, we want to go to the package leaflet, and I want to make this bigger again, or you might be able to remember it enough to spare my technical blushes.
I can pick it up on this other screen that I have in front of me, so that saves
Oh,
you.
this is readable almost.
Yeah, now it will be.
Almost.
No, so
usually at the end of the paper, at the end of a paper, you have the acknowledgements, you've got some notes, you have some acknowledgements, and there are these references.
yeah,
But then there is this extra.
yeah. So it tells you a few things. First of all, that we are incredibly serious and goosebump-like, and at the same time, no, and I'm serious about that even, and at the same time, make fun of ourselves, our audience, and what we to not claim any truth or what, and so we can really switch from the incredibly serious goosebump moment to kind of more strict academic reasoning and to make fun of it at the same time. And that is what probably this package leaflet does a bit. So it starts with the active substances. So that's the serious stuff, what we hope we convey. And then following a package leaflet, we come with warning and precautions. So not to read it as a poem, but just to bring your attention to it. Artistic approaches to academia can lead to severe allergic reactions, ultimately making it necessary to discard the article altogether before rashes in the neck, heightened blood pressure, and mood swings kick in. Early warning signs are biases, prejudices, strong theoretical convictions, and academic puritanism. So this was a response of us also to the third, fourth, fifth round of reviews that wanted us to write I won't use that kind of words, a very academic text. And
more of it.
And more of it. Explain in more detail. Be more explicit about.
Use more words.
Use more words, etc., etc. And so we bottom line kind of refused it by coming up with this artistic response to an academic question. And some people find it hilarious, and some people become very angry because of it. And well, of course, we do return. We do return to the title, so metabolizing the maze, and of course we make it our own by putting this little C in a circle, as all kinds of drugs and other stuff from the pharmaceutical industry does, and make sure to optimize your metabolization by chewing carefully so that the information can be processed in a relaxed manner. Adequate intake of metabolizing the maze will help your body to excrete waste through perspiration, urination, and defecation. I mean, we have laughed loud when we found these words that are considered so unacademic, at least for a journal article, and then finally the journal gave in or gave
Yeah, somehow they gave in after this.
gave in or gave up.
Yeah.
And then yes, it came with its own problems in terms of how to publish it, because all of a sudden the layout section didn't know how to deal with it,
No.
because they are used to text and that kind of stuff, and not to the kind of creative representations that we used.
No, they actually asked me if I could send a text file, and then they would maybe add some illustrations as an exception to the rule. And also, of course, they wanted to put it in Times New Roman, as the article you just showed us is, and all
yes.
others tend to be. Yeah, we had to fight long and hard for that too, but I think we managed that as well.
Yeah. But as you can see, Izzy, now you have made it a bit bigger. Haraway, of course, is one of our big inspirations as well.
Yes.
So yeah. By the way, somewhere the word edge came in, and just for Gay, I don't know if she hears it or can see it later on, but elephants on the edge was part of my kind of animal turn. And how it relates to South Africa is interesting because on the dust cover of that book, there is a text from Desmond Tutu, who was patron to our South Africa program at the VU.
Yeah.
And so I saw the book, I turned it around, I saw Desmond Tutu kind of, giving praise to the book. And I bought it because of interest, but also because of that. And it kind of accelerated the kind of animal turn that I first went into, and then into the tree turn and microbial turn, and whatever turn you can think of. But yeah, just to bring in that word edge that you mentioned earlier.
That's
Thank
nice.
you. I just before I take this away from the screen, I love the very end. Other side effects may include episodes of despair or, on the contrary, flashes of unsubstantiated hopefulness. And we want people to leave with some substantiated hopefulness maybe today.
Definitely.
So I will it's nice to be back, isn't it? It's like sitting
We're still
around the
here.
table again.
We haven't lost you. That's nice.
No, that is nice. No, it is wonderful, and I know we sort of spent a long time looking at that, but I think it's worth it because it is so very different, and leads us into so many areas. So I once wondering what you're sort of working towards now, and particularly with reference to multi-species communication, Harry, because I know that there's some of that in your work, and to find out what Saskia is doing on that side of things as well. So maybe, Harry, if you could sort of start us off on the interspecies communication
Yeah.
topic.
I think the theoretical argument or the academic argument for multi-species theoretically is by now gaining so much traction that indeed it seems that many people are convinced by it. So I even from students get the response like, okay, no, that multi-species, yeah, no, that's okay. But now I'm doing research in organizations. How do I connect? How do I communicate? How do I include the non-human in my empirical research? And so the methodological question is coming to the fore more and more after the acceptance of the more theoretical philosophical claim that the that humans and non-humans differ more in degree than in kind. And in that context of the kind of ongoing conversation in this field, there is a concept that has been introduced, which is intuitive interspecies communication, IIC, and there's it got a huge European grant, an ERC grant, which made the lady who asked for the money find a position at the Belgium University as a research professor to do with her PhD's research on IIC. I know this particular colleague quite well, and I'm fascinated by this kind of methodological idea that they apply very much only to animals, but can be applied also more broadly. So what I did last time for 3 months in South Africa is basically exploring IIC in two ways towards animals and went to one of the animal communicators that Vanessa Wijngaarden, the professor in Belgium, is also working with. Got sessions with her and well, try to develop any skills in that direction. And on my own, I tried to apply the concept of IIC more towards trees, which was a big step again, for myself, but also more broadly in academia, and to come back to my Department of Organization Sciences and then answer the question, what have you done in South Africa? And then tell them, well, I've trying to communicate with trees. Well, it has been a remarkable experience and incredibly convincing, as you know, Issy, because we have spoken about it and you have been one of my guides in this process, also in a kind of finding the courage to go at length to try and see what it did to me and not. And it has helped me in so many ways, how you wrote about it, but also how we spoke about it, but also sometimes life's events help. My sister passed away a couple of weeks ago, which was very sad, and the first consolation came from a tree and not from a person, not a human. So yes, a lot of things happened in South Africa, which have made me more confident about the avenues that I'm exploring together with Saskia, together with you, together with other colleagues, Vanessa in Belgium and all, and to also kind of find ways or dare to explore methodological ways to communicate intuitively with the non-human is an incredibly enriching experience. Also because I related to all kinds of indigenous knowledge systems. I hate the word for many reasons, but I won't go into that. In Southern Africa, where especially the San have I mean, so I gave a seminar in South Africa at the very end of this 3 months period of experiences, and I was a bit nervous, academia, and then after I said what I had to say, then a couple of black South African colleagues said, "But Harry, what's new?" What's new? Is it now new because in European academia they think that traction is a bit towards IIC? I mean, our indigenous population has been bringing this to us and safeguarding it for us, safeguarding it to us till the very day while being marginalized, killed, murdered, what have you, marginalized in society. But their kind of knowledge is what now is gaining traction in European academia. So don't pretend that you are smart or what, but take a good and close look at what has already been on offer, maybe not with references, maybe not even written, uh, but is clearly out there. And I mean, then Southern Africa is only one area on this globe. I mean, the same holds for the US and the First Nations and what's happening in Australia and what's happening in other parts of Asia and India. So I mean, academia is arrogant. And should acknowledge that what they are up to now is actually more of a return than a kind of progress, or acknowledging again where we come from and where we started.
It's that's I love the way that you expressed it like that. I was thinking in a way, this sort of, Western discovery, which is really kind of rediscovery is
Yeah.
like a child walking into a library and going, look, I've written these things called letters, you know, and forgetting that there is this, you know, there are all these bookshelves behind them full of texts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it is like that. And I know, Saskia, you too have been interested in the ways that other cultures have addressed the process of this state of being of enchantment. And how have you been exploring that?
It's an interesting question because I was listening to Harry and really sort of feeling with the whole what he was saying, and I think to me at the moment the most inspiring beings are not the humans so much. So what I've been doing lately is trying to listen to one specific species, in this case the dandelion, for example, which just grows in my backyard and people mow it away because they think it's just, yeah, a weed and it shouldn't be there. And trying in all sorts of ways to get to know the dandelion, taking pictures, looking up information on the internet. Did you know, for example, that the Russians in World War II took 1/3 of their rubber production from the stems of dandelions? Just saying. But it's such an interesting plant, really. But I also try to listen to it, and it's not easy because you have to get over your own, well, maybe academic, maybe cultural bias, like what am I doing sitting here listening to a dandelion? But when you do, and to me, it really started giving me messages, and I wrote them down and sort of combined them into a poem at the end. But the first message was, I close for the night. And this is true for many plants, that when it gets dark or when there's a lot of rain, they close their petals to protect the innermost sanctuary of themselves, basically. And things like that just inspire me a lot. I mean, we can learn a lot from the way plants, animals, other natural beings have this natural way of doing what is good for them, right? I think many of us have forgotten that to a certain extent, or we override it with all our duties and to-do lists and things. And it has taught me a lot of humility and has made me kind of try to take life in a more simple way to commune with the plants, because they always say things like, take a rest. You're already loved. Things like, yeah, I don't know, their messages are pretty straightforward, but to us, so complicated to execute maybe in this time. We are so caught up in all our busyness and being exceptional because we're humans and ruling the world and all that stuff, that we forget that it's not easy, but it's simple. And that is what I have been sort of trying to well, not work on, there you go, still hard to say, to not work on, to unwork.
Yes,
And
yeah.
that has been very insightful. And one more project that we've been doing with the climate poets, we have made our second book, and that whole book is 50 poems written by 50 different poets, all from the perspective of a non-human being. And it has been so wonderful to read the people, what they come up with, because almost everyone has taken a very strange, to us anyway, a very strange species that no one knows, like a very interesting type of bacterium, and they've all really tried very hard not to just look up stuff about it, but also sort of imagine what it would be like to be a species other than themselves. And we've spoken at length about how problematic this is, of course, because we're humans, so how can we pretend to be able to write from the perspective of a non-human being? But at the same time, we're poets, so we can use our imagination. So I think we've come up with it being some sort of a translation or a wording of what the species tries to express to us, at least and hope that we translate it well is all we can do. We can try to translate as well as we can and learn as much about their language and their ways as we can, but it will always be different from the original, like a translation always is. But that doesn't mean it's not valuable, I think. So, yeah, I'm sort of on the edge between the impossibility of being human, writing about non-human realities, and all the possibilities it gives for widening your imagination and enriching your own life, basically, as well.
Yeah, thank you. I see that there is a question from Mike. Mike, I don't know if you want to unmute yourself and make yourself visible, or otherwise I can read it out for you. I'll just there you are, Mike.
Yes, I don't know if it's right to ask this question or not, but
Yeah,
I think that to lock this up into academia and things that are separate from where the problem lies in the greater public arena, we must move that thinking as a relatively rapid rate into the public arena to shift a paradigm that's killing us. And if we
Yeah.
don't do that, we might not succeed as a species.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would agree with that or not, but
Yeah.
not to move,
Totally.
if we don't move rapidly, we're going to
Yeah.
burn the planet up.
Yeah.
We're going to kill everything that's on it.
Yeah.
And we're going to do such damage, and we are moving so rapidly toward that. I mean, I deal with this on a daily basis because of the work I do in restoration of natural wetland systems. And I see the impacts on these systems that are so non-regulated, so misunderstood by people that are unaware of what they're doing. And if we don't move to where we can integrate ourselves with life itself, we're going to not be alive. Now, you may not agree with that, and I'll just let it go with that. I wanted to ask you, how do we move that paradigm into that paradigm?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, would you like to start, Saskia, or shall I?
No, please go.
Yeah. So thanks, Mike. I couldn't agree more in many ways. And if we would take time to have a conversation, we would end up quite close to each other. I think at the same time, it is a very collective thing, and how to translate it to a general audience, to go for more rapid change, is coming back to the question that Izzy posed, like hope and despair, and do we end on a note of hopefulness or despair, or anything in between? I know from Monday onward there will be close to 100 students waiting again for a new academic year in the Netherlands, to hear this funny story about the multi-species organization and all that. The audience in the more artistic world is maybe looking forward to the next anthology of poems that Saskia and her climate poets will publish. The world is waiting for you, Mike, as well, to do your utmost. Kyrillos, the utmost. Izzy, the utmost. And I mean, so, but if you ask me very personally, like Harry, are you more of the hopeful person or the more despairing one? I would dare to start that conversation and say, well, if I look at the political and climate crisis at the very moment, there's not much reason for optimism. I'm sorry to say, and that counts for the Netherlands as much as it counts for some other countries, including the UK, by the way, Izzy, and the US. Sorry, Mike, and for wherever else you come from, the tide is not in our favor at the moment. And so therefore, I'm very Latourian. Sorry for using a bit of a big word. Bruno Latour, the late famous philosopher, sociologist, said, like, it's more courageous to despair and continue than to hope and continue. I am of the despairing one that will persevere, talk to my students, not go into retirement, to do my utmost, but also realize that I am on a planet with how many billions do we have at the moment? Close to 8 billion.
Yeah.
I'm 1/8 billionth of the world population. It would be outrageous to think that I will be able to make the difference.
But let me just carry one thing you said forward a little more. We're working with indigenous populations in California now, and indigenous ways of living are now taking hold in things like fighting fires, in dealing with daily life, in cleaning up the environment. I had a meeting with a tribal member last week who said we've got to incorporate our thinking along with this thinking that came from Europe, or we're not going to survive. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just reading, not to show off with that I read the book again, but I mean, I just got hold of this one, Robert Macfarlane's next book, Is a River Alive? I think it is of the utmost literary beauty, but also the message is so powerful. His most radical book since he started writing, and it is talking about the kind of stuff, Mike, that you bring forward, in cooperating with indigenous communities, with restoring, with cleaning up, with giving room for and normalize the indigenous perspective on how to deal with planet Earth. So yes, I hear you. I'm with you, ideologically and academically, and at the same time, I'm almost humbled by the sheer magnitude of what we are against.
I just to slightly intervene, Harry, the guy who's the second, anyone who hasn't yet read Is a River Alive should do, and the second story that takes place in India, that one, the guy he's a young Indian who had a incredibly traumatic childhood, and he's sort of gone from the ground upwards, being involved in kind of like guerrilla ecology. I mean, GUER, a guerrilla ecology, doing stuff on his own with a group of other young lads, self-taught, just incredible young man. And I think his book has just been published. So and obviously Robert Macfarlane, who's friends with him, has sort of like written on the cover of that book. So I think that's going to be an important text to read as well.
Yeah.
You haven't got it already, have you?
No, I haven't.
I thought you were
No.
going to show off with your
Yeah,
book.
no.
Yeah, look at you.
No, but now you are talking about what is below the surface of different texts. So Robert Macfarlane, I read after I finished Elif Shafak. There Are Rivers in the Sky, and if you look at the back of Robert's book, then one of the texts is from Elif Shafak, and again, when you read the first chapters of Robert's book, then he basically touches upon many of the themes that she writes about here as well, but then in fiction, and he does it in a different way. It's incredible. Yeah.
Sorry,
Anyway.
Mike. I interrupted into your question, and I think Saskia was going to sort of respond to.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to respond because I think Harry did very well in that sense that he can. Right, but I don't know. I just wanted to say that I totally agree with you, and I also balance between feeling despair and giving up and trying to. I still believe that if I do a very, very tiny bit, it's better than nothing. And even if that is in the greater scheme of things, just like a drop of water on a glowing plate, as we say. But for us, for example, the climate poets never cooperate. They tend to sit in their attic and just write and do nothing in any organized setting. So the fact that we got 250 poets to join and to go to climate protests and to write about climate, it's a small audience. I admit that. It's poetry, hardly anyone knows about it, but still we get more and more invitations. We start to sort of be like we are starting to sort of gain a little bit of traction, at least in our two countries, which will not save the world, of course, but it also won't be bad to do it. So I keep thinking that I prefer to sort of maneuver between despair and hope and do as much as I can, while realizing full well that we are not able on our own or even in groups to just sort of save the world and make it all be good. I still believe that anything we can do to start a change of consciousness is useful.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you
so
for your
much.
question and for your work as well.
I've got a few other questions. There's 3 of you there with 4 of you now with questions at the moment, and my cat Wuji also has a question, which is, when are you going to give me the food? I will mute my mic when I ask Andrea to step forward.
Thanks, Izzy. Recently, I had a conversation with a friend in Toronto. I'm in Canada here, and she and some colleagues have been listening to cedar, one tree or one species, and she and the others just recently published a newspaper, and I'm going to hold it up so you can see this as an innovative approach. I mean, I love the idea of the poetry, and I'm bringing this up because that impulse to be creative with the voice of the trees or the plants or the animals is an enormous river of possibility for our future. So this is the paper. You see how huge it is? Okay.
Yeah.
And at the top it says news from Cedar. And somebody has drawn the black and white sketches throughout of this. And this was the message they received, or she received: we will take your breath away. And then the paper is the size of a newspaper. So it goes on in through here. I mean,
Wow.
it's extraordinary, the combination of artistry and language.
Wow.
Wow.
This, I'll bring this up close. You can somebody else read it aloud? Saskia, can you read that aloud for me?
I would love to, but I wait.
Why would you not share
Share
the
the
one
one
most precious gift that you have, which is your breath? And why would you not
put
put
love
love
on it,
And then I can't see because
which is song.
yeah, which is
Okay,
sung.
song.
Yeah.
So
That's beautiful.
exactly. And as I say, it's the size of a newspaper. So that even that approach is bringing a sense of drama rather than something like this, which is a lovely sentiment and a thought. So I just felt that that was important to include as an amplification of what you are offering, and for us never to minimize the creative impulse that moves in us as supported by the plants, the trees, who want to speak through us.
Yeah.
If we can feel that in our bodies, we are not alone. We're not a small voice crying in the wilderness. We are part of a larger force that is creating a reckoning beyond the human psyche. So thank you for thank you.
Thank you so much for putting it into words way more eloquently than I just tried to do. It's really,
Well,
and
it
it's
takes
really,
all of us. It Takes all of us listening.
It does. It really does. And this is so inspiring because, again, I think it is an example of taking something that is in the world, like a newspaper, completely changing the idea behind it, giving it a new life, as it were, so that you appeal to people with the old thing that they know and then just take them by surprise and inspire them with something else, which is really beautiful.
I'll just
So
read.
thank you.
I'll just read the on the front lines of the fires, which we've had in multitude
Yeah.
here in Canada this year. On the front lines of the fire, cedar calls for war. Now, that wouldn't be my expression of cedar, but it was theirs, and it's authentic, and it has a place. Anyway, there we go.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Can we find this newspaper somewhere?
No,
probably
it's a very small local thing, although the people participating in it are from all over the world.
Mhm.
And they are listening for the songs of cedar and
That's
creating
fantastic.
that as well.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yes,
You're welcome.
thank you so much, Andrea. And Kate Armand, would you be willing to speak your message? I can't see you at the moment. Oh, sorry, Kath. I'll read it. Kath says that she's writing stories with trees and it's the most transformative and grounding act of love I'm experiencing these days. Sorry. And she says thank you for the resonance she feels in the space here. Kath, beautiful. I share your vibes. I spend a lot of time with trees and I find it transformative, grounding, and an act of love as well. So total resonating. Mary Beth, would you be willing to speak up? Mary Beth is going to be a guest on our next series, which is all about home. And she's written a wonderful novel called Bloom Again, which I think you'll all enjoy. You're unmuted, Mary Beth, but we can't see you.
Okay, good. Yeah. Let's see if I can get my video going. Sorry, I'm also still dealing with a puppy, so always on the move. Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what Saskia said about just sitting down and talking to Dandelion. I've been doing that this summer too. My conversation is going to come to an end here with the first snow, but I'm probably going to start talking to Spruce because they talk all year long here. But I think that I feel a lot of despair when I focus on humans. And I feel a lot of hope, or at least the possibility, when I spend more time with the other than human world and just try to listen. And so I feel also that art has a lot of power, that what you're doing, Saskia, with your climate poets and trying to be conduits for other beings, I think is really key. And I just think that my hope comes from all that humans don't know. Like there's so much we don't know, even all the cultures put together. So I just wanted to say that it's not really a question. Really appreciated this conversation so much. It's such a great series, and you two are incredible people, and I'm just so delighted to get to know you and your work.
Well,
thank you, Mary Beth.
Much.
That was lovely. I saw Eileen, you've taken away your beautiful anime person, and I didn't know if that was suggesting that you wanted to speak. No, perhaps. Are you unmuting?
I just put a comment in the chat, and it's not meant to be nihilistic. It's sort of more of a spiritual perspective that I've had really my whole life. And around the age of 8 or 9, I remember reading Arthur C. Clarke's The End of Childhood. And we leave this planet. I'm also reminded of the Mayans saying that 2012 was the end of the 5th age, or the beginning of the 5th cycle of this planet. With the lack of will to change our ways, I wonder if we are meant to, and perhaps the planet is meant to prevail. Just my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Eileen has beautiful work as a death doula, and works with multi-species clients. So that's remarkable work, and it sounds from the way that you feel as if that's a particularly important work for the stage that we seem to find ourselves in.
It is, because I think in the background, in all the chaos and all the unrest that's going on, and all the way the planet's reacting and way other species are reacting, that we may already be too late, and perhaps that wasn't what we are here for in this time. Not that our souls, I do believe our souls continue on, and quantum physics says so, which we all know. And I talked last week about how it being sad that we wait for science to catch up with what we know innately. And maybe it's just my hippie parents exposing me to too much science fiction at a young age, and Soylent Green is still the living nightmare of my life. But I've always felt I was going to live in an apocalyptic age. And interestingly, my stepsister does too, and she's about almost 18 years younger than me. But it's just something I've come to accept, that we doesn't mean we stop trying, but
Exactly. Yeah.
because that's part of the soul lesson. But I don't know, given what we're seeing, if we're going to make it, and maybe we weren't meant to.
Is it okay if I react?
Oh, please do. I'm sorry. I just felt the need to explain it, because we're all talking about revering life, and yet I think that energy goes on, and I didn't want it to sound quite as nihilistic as it came across. That's all.
I don't think it
Please
sounds
react.
nihilistic at all, actually. I think first of all, it's wonderful I think in the work that you do, that you maybe teach also the humans to get a better relationship with death, which we are in dire need of, I think. And also for me, the task of the human, I read it somewhere, I don't know where anymore. It says that the task of the human is to sing to the miracles of the earth. So we're like the youngest brother or the youngest sister that came in, and the only task left was to sing, to sort of acknowledge all the miracles and wonders that were already there. And like you, I don't know if this may be our swan song, and maybe the last one we will sing, but even if it is, I think we can still make it beautiful.
Exactly. That's exactly what I feel. And that maybe we'll continue, and maybe we'll come to this planet again in the future, but that death is part of the cycle of life and rebirth. And in many faith belief and religious beliefs, that is seen as cyclical, although we tend to see time as linear.
Yeah, and I also think that even if we as humans don't make it, life will.
Exactly.
And we sing to life, we don't sing to humans.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is everybody familiar with the story of the hummingbird and the bushfire?
No.
No, so there's a huge bushfire, and if ever you want to hear it in a beautiful Kenyan English, listen to Wangari Maathai talking about it or telling the story. But the essence is, there's a huge bushfire, and the elephant and all the big animals, they look from a distance and say, gee, my goodness, what a fire, what a fire. And there's this one hummingbird that is flying up and down between the river and the bushfire, and takes one drop, in her beak and then flies back, and exhausted she comes back, and then the elephant says, don't waste your time and energy, because you can't extinguish the fire at all with that one drop of yours. And then indeed the hummingbird tells the elephant and all the big mouths that are around her, like, I do the best I can. And I think that is what even a collection of people that are here together tonight is in itself trying to establish. And yes, if it gets more traction, it would be great. But even if not, then we are the hummingbird flying up and down all the time till we are done. And then we have done our best. I don't know, Aileen, if that is a kind of translation of what you tried to tell as well.
Yes, it is somewhat. It definitely is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that reminds the starfish story too. One about the hummingbird, but I like the hummingbird one better.
Yeah.
I think it's Rumi who said, "You're not a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop."
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you so much, Eileen. If anyone else has any questions, want to put their hands up. I think I've successfully gone through the chat. Oh, the Lauren Isley starfish essay, Mary Beth mentioned, and Molly had as well. So yes, Lauren Isley starfish essay for anyone who wanted to follow that one up. If no one has their hands up, I'm aware that I've taken up plenty of Harry and Saskia's time this evening. It'll be heading towards 8 o'clock there in the Netherlands. So it's time to have your vegan dinners and and a last glance at the dandelion
closing for the night.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being our guests on A Re-Enchanted World, our third series of the year for Living One. It's been an absolute pleasure and a delight to host you, and I'm going to hand over to Olivia to close proceedings. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you,
Saskia.
Izzy.
Thank you, Izzy.
And thank you, everyone.
Thank you both so much for being here. This has been incredible, and thank you everybody for your comments and your time and your questions. It's been such a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening all across the world today with all of you. Our next Living One speaker will be 1 week from today on Friday, September 5th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and we will be welcoming writer and scholar Patrick Curry, who will be telling us about enchantment and why it matters. For those of you who have not already joined our Living One companion course for this series, you're still welcome to do so. We have 2 more gatherings left. You can go to our website to learn more and to enroll. And as a reminder, these courses are offered on a sliding scale, but please reach out if payment remains a barrier for participation, and all proceeds will go to the Grace Village Sanctuary resident. So thank you so much, everybody. This has been incredible, and we really look forward to seeing you next week. And Harry and Saskia, thank you so much. This is just wonderful.
Thank you for having us.
Yep, thanks.
You.
Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
Cheers.